Okay, so let's get into this because I think we've all been there, right?
Oh, absolutely.
You wake up, maybe you actually got a solid night's sleep for once, you feel fantastic, you've got the coffee, you are ready to just conquer the day.
You feel like you can achieve total cognitive world domination.
Yes. You have that one big, important, kind of thorny task that you know you have to get
The
done.
one that actually moves the needle.
That's the one. But then you sit down, you open the laptop, and you think, I'll just check my email first.
Ah, the classic mistake.
And you answer a couple of, slightly passive-aggressive messages. Then you get pulled into a meeting that could have been an email.
And nothing gets decided, of course.
Of course not. And you look up, and you haven't even started the real work yet. But it's 2 p.m., and you feel just hollowed out. Not just tired, but that deep physical exhaustion.
The 2 p.m. zombie.
The 2 p.m. zombie. You just want to slump over and watch Jump TV until the clock finally hits 5.
And it's such a universal experience in, modern knowledge work. But the worst part, I think, is that we internalize it.
Right.
You beat ourselves up.
Right. You think, I'm just lazy, or I don't have enough discipline.
I should just power it through. But this deep dive, which is really rooted in some pretty groundbreaking neuroscience of cognitive efficiency,
Yeah.
a lot of building on David Rock's work, is here to just bust that myth wide open.
Thank goodness, because the core message here is, frankly, a relief. Your collapse isn't a moral failure. It's not a character flaw.
Right.
It's a design flaw in your brain's actual hardware.
Exactly. And our mission today is to uncover these ruthless scientific limits of your brain and then give you some really actionable science-backed strategies to maximize what you've got without frying your circuits every day.
And the sources give us this perfect central metaphor that I think just grounds everything. It's that your brain, it isn't some tireless supercomputer.
Not at all. It's much more fragile. It's more like a small, sort of low-budget community theater. It's working under some very tight constraints.
I love this metaphor, the small theater. It just clicks. So let's define the roles here for everyone listening, because this framework, the stage, the actors, the audience, it's going to come up again and again.
Okay, so let's start with the main venue, the stage itself.
Right.
That's your prefrontal cortex,
Yeah.
the PFC. It's the newest part of your brain, evolutionarily speaking. It's the most complex, and it is incredibly energy hungry.
So this is the VIP section where all the heavy lifting happens. Decision-making, understanding new ideas.
Recalling memories, controlling your impulses, all the hard stuff.
And what about the actors?
The actors are whatever you're focusing on right now, the actual pieces of information demanding your conscious attention.
So like a complex spreadsheet formula or a really cryptic text from your boss?
Yes, or the 3 main points of a contract you're trying to analyze. Each of those is an actor walking onto the stage, demanding the spotlight.
Okay, and then you've got the audience.
The audience, right. They're sitting there in the dark, and they're constantly distracting the performers. This is your memory, your habits, your subconscious anxieties.
So they're basically just heckling the whole time.
Most of the time, yeah, they're heckling. But sometimes, and this is key for later, sometimes they toss a brilliant, unexpected idea onto the stage.
It sounds a little chaotic. And the sources are pretty blunt that the theater's infrastructure is,
It's falling apart.
it's tragic. So let's dive right into that. Section 1, the brain's tragic hardware specs.
And we have to start with the most fatal flaw, the one that really impacts our daily cognitive load. We'll call it flaw, #1, the tiny stage.
Okay, so let's bust a myth right away. For decades, we were all taught this magic number 7 idea.
Right, from psychology class, that you can hold 7 things in your short-term memory, +or -2.
It was a nice, comforting lie that, frankly, gave us way too much credit.
It really did. And, recent rigorous neuroscience is, well, it's a ruthless myth buster here. It's actually pretty humbling.
So what's the real number?
The truth is far more limiting. Your brain's stage, the PFC, can hold a maximum of maybe 4 chunks of information at once.
4, not 7.
4. And that's on a good day, when you're fresh and fully caffeinated.
4. That's a profoundly small number for people whose jobs are all about processing complexity all day long.
It's incredibly small. And the key word there is chunks. We're talking about active processing slots.
So it's not just storage, it's like active workstations.
Exactly. Think of it like this. If those 4 chunks are simple, like 4 single-digit numbers, the system's fine. It can handle it. But if those 4 chunks are complicated...
Like you're trying to weigh the pros and cons of 4 different strategic plans.
Right, or you're trying to read 4 dense paragraphs of a legal document, The stage just instantly crashes.
Blue screen of death.
Total blue screen of death. That's why you get that physical crushing headache when you're forced to hold too many variables in your head without writing them down. You've exceeded the stage's capacity.
The sources have this great, very relatable story about a guy named Paul to illustrate this. The overloaded elevator experience.
Oh, poor Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he gets a promotion. He's running this high-stakes team, and he's determined to prove himself.
Of course.
So in one single hour, he tries to digest this massive 50-page project brief full of technical jargon.
Okay, that's already too many actors on the stage.
Way too many. And at the same time, he's trying to calculate and quote a price for the whole project to a really demanding client. So he's got maybe 20, 30 complex chunks of info, all fighting for 4 slots.
And I can guess what happened next.
Total cognitive shutdown. His brain just pulled the emergency brake. He felt a wave of nausea, his heart started racing, and then there was just this profound, terrifying blankness.
Wow.
He literally found himself just staring at the wall for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
He couldn't remember the name of the client he was just talking to, let alone the project scope.
And that's so crucial for anyone listening. That's your daily reality. You're trying to hold a project timeline in your head, plus the stress about a sick kid, plus the error codes from yesterday's report, and also remembering you need to pick up milk on the way home.
Exactly. Your brain starts making that beeping sound like an overloaded elevator, and then eventually it just locks up. The doors won't close,
Right.
and you're just stuck, staring into space.
It feels like a personal failure, but you're saying it's just physics.
It's just physics. You hit a hard processing limit.
So the tiny stage is one half of the tragedy. But that's not all. Let's move on to flaw #2, the laughable battery life.
Ah, yes. The high-maintenance diva, that is the prefrontal cortex. The PFC only takes up about, 4% of your brain's volume, but its appetite for glucose and oxygen, its fuel, is absolutely insatiable.
And the critical part is it runs on a battery, not a nuclear reactor.
A very weak battery, at that.
Yeah.
Every single time you do heavy cognitive work, you are draining that battery, and there's no fast charger. Sleep is the only real recharge.
This is where it gets really fascinating, because we tend to ignore the physical cost of mental effort. But thinking isn't just in your head. It's a full-body workout.
It is profoundly physical work. And there's this incredible experiment from way back in 1898 that proves this link perfectly.
Yeah, tell us about that.
So it's a classic physiological study. Scientists had people squeeze a grip strength meter, which is, a measure of pure physical hand strength.
Okay.
But while they were squeezing it, they also had to do intense, multi-step mental math in their heads, a very high PFC task.
So you're saying a tough budget meeting could be the physical equivalent of, like, lifting weights.
In terms of energy demand, yes. The brain's demand for fuel is so high that it literally pulls resources, glucose, and oxygen away from other systems, including your muscles.
And what was the result on the grip strength?
It was staggering. When the brain was sprinting on those math problems, the subject's physical hand strength dropped by 50%.
50.
That's it.
Unbelievable.
A 50% drop in physical power, just from thinking hard. It completely reframes the cost of mental effort. We have to be radically protective of this energy.
Okay, so if the battery is that weak and thinking is that physically draining, we have to know what the biggest energy vampires are in our day.
Right, because it's not just, doing long division.
So what is the #1 thing that kills our battery at work?
The biggest energy vampire, hands down, is prioritizing and decision-making. It is the absolute hardest, most energy-expensive thing your PFC can do.
Why? That feels like something I do all day, every day. Why is just deciding what to do on my to-do list so costly?
Well, think about what's actually happening in your brain. To prioritize a list of tasks, you first have to conjure up multiple future scenarios that don't exist yet.
Okay, like mental simulation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then you have to make those future scenarios compete against each other on that tiny little stage. If I do task A, then X happens. If I do task B, then Y happens.
And then you have to weigh the trade-off and actually commit to one.
And that whole process is what the sources call the Ironman triathlon of cognitive tasks. You're simulating reality, inhibiting other choices, and committing limited resources all at once. It just torches your battery.
Which brings us to the tragic story of Emily, the character who commits what the book calls corporate suicide by mismanaging her energy.
This is such a powerful cautionary tale. It's the textbook failure of cognitive efficiency in the modern workplace. Emily gets a big promotion. She walks in at 8 a.m., battery at 100%, ready to go.
She knows she has to do the big, hard work of planning her strategy for the next 6 months, the Ironman triathlon.
But she sees her inbox, hundreds of unread emails, and she thinks that classic tempting thought, I'll just clear the runway first.
Ugh, the temptation of clearing the runway, getting those little dopamine hits of completion from easy tasks, it's so powerful.
It's overwhelming, so she starts replying. One by one, more emails pour in. She spends 90 minutes just dealing with low-value administrative noise.
And by the time she finally turns to the real work around 10 a.m., ready to do her planning,
Her mind is blank. She's got nothing.
she completely wasted her golden hour.
She wasted her peak cognitive battery life on trivial nonsense. When she finally needed her brain to do the heavy lifting of prioritizing and planning, she was already on fumes. The battery was dead. She crashed.
This is the critical takeaway of this whole first section. It leads right into the survival guide. Protecting your peak hours. We have to radically rethink our mornings.
It really just boils down to respecting your own tragic hardware specs. So, rule 1, treat your peak hours like an endangered species.
For most people, that's the morning, right before the day gets noisy and the battery starts to drain.
Usually, yes. And that means following the golden rule, the one Emily broke. Do not check email or scroll social media first thing in the morning.
Because those are just low-value distractions that are gobbling up your most expensive, precious resource, that fresh, 100% charged PFC battery.
Use that precious limited battery for the single most energy-expensive task, prioritizing and planning. Spend your first 30 minutes of peak energy deciding what to do and when to do it, not actually doing the low-value stuff.
And there's one more pro tip here for anyone whose brain just feels constantly full, like a spinning carousel of reminders.
Yes. Externalize your cognition. Get it out of your head and onto paper or into a simple app.
This is a direct strategy for dealing with that 4-slot limit on the stage.
Exactly. If you write down, buy milk or call mom back, you are literally getting that actor off the tiny stage. You're clearing the cache. You're freeing up a slot for the important stuff.
It's like your brain trusts the paper to remember so it can let go.
It lets go, which is what you need before the main performance begins.
Okay, so we've established the hardware is terrible. Tiny stage, weak battery. Now we have to talk about the one thing everyone thinks they're good at, but which the science basically calls brain damage.
Right. Let's move into section 2, starting with A, multitasking, the brain damage mode. And we need to be really clear here, based on all the research, multitasking is a complete and total lie.
It's amazing how many people still put excellent multitasking skills on their resume.
I know. And they should delete it immediately after hearing this. There was a study that is it's truly shocking. It involved high performers, Harvard MBA students,
Yeah.
people you'd assume are cognitive titans.
Right, the best of the best.
They found that when these people tried to do 2 thinking tasks at once, their cognitive ability dropped to the level of an 8-year-old child.
Okay, that's a mic drop moment right there. So when you think you're being super efficient, nodding on a Zoom call while you're secretly typing an email under the desk,
You are intellectually operating at the capacity of your 2nd-grade nephew.
that is terrifying. That alone should convince everyone to stop.
It should. And the explanation goes right back to our little theater model. Remember, the stage is tiny, but even worse, there is only one spotlight.
The spotlight is your attention.
It's your attention, and it can only shine on one actor at a time. What we call multitasking is really just a manic lighting technician swinging that spotlight back and forth wildly.
From the email to the Zoom call, back to the email.
And every single one of those switches has a massive cognitive cost. It's a hard break on the first task, then you have to slam the gas to get the second task up and running in your brain.
That just sounds exhausting, like grinding the gears of your car over and over.
It is. This context switching wastes enormous amounts of that precious PFC fuel. It drains the battery way faster than sustained focus, and it's a huge source of errors because your brain is constantly having to refamiliarize itself with the details of each task.
We saw this with Emily again, right? She tried to listen in a strategy meeting while also answering emails.
A fatal combination. 2 high PFC tasks. The switching cost was so high, her brain literally gave her vertigo. It went on strike. So when the CEO asked her a simple question about the discussion,
Her mind was a total blank.
a blank slate. The energy cost of switching back and forth left her cognitively bankrupt in the moment she needed the information most.
Okay, so No more multitasking. Point taken. But even when you try to focus on one thing, it's still incredibly hard. Which brings us to B, the enemies of focus.
And they attack in two relentless ways. Wave one is the obvious one. External distractions.
The ding from your phone, the coworker popping their head in your office, the little email notification in the corner of your screen.
The data on this is grim. Research shows that the average office worker gets interrupted every 11 minutes.
Every 11 minutes. That means you literally never get a full, solid hour of uninterrupted deep work.
Never. And the recovery time is what really kills productivity. It's not just the minute you lose to the interruption. It takes, on average, 25 minutes to get back in the zone.
25 minutes to rebuild that mental theater you had constructed around the problem.
Exactly. So if you're interrupted every 11 minutes and it takes 25 to recover, well, you do the math. You're operating at a constant cognitive loss all day.
But even if you manage to lock yourself in a quiet room, there's still wave two, internal distractions. The enemy is coming from inside the house.
The mole in the operation. That constant internal ticker tape of worries and random thoughts. Did I sound stupid in that meeting? What should I have for dinner? Why is that song from the 80s stuck in my head?
It's relentless.
And the science here is even more depressing. Our brains can only hold a single active thought for about 10 seconds before they wander off like a puppy. Sustained focus requires tremendous effort.
Which leads us to this just game-changing concept that turns everything we think about focus on its head.
Yes, focus is not stepping on the gas, it is stepping on the brakes.
This is a fundamental shift. We think of focus as pure willpower, pure drive, just pushing forward.
But physiologically, it's the opposite. It's about inhibition. It's about what you're not doing.
So tell us about the brain's braking system. How does that work?
Your brain has a dedicated braking system, and it's mostly located in the right ventrolateral prefrontal cortex. Its only job is to inhibit impulses.
So it's the part that stops the internal ticker tape.
It stops the ticker tape.
Yeah.
It stops you from checking your phone when it buzzes. It stops you from eating the donut on the counter. It is your self-control mechanism.
The willpower center. It's all about saying no.
Precisely. But here is the cruelest, most tragic design flaw of the entire system.
What's that?
The braking system runs on the exact same pathetic, low-capacity battery as the rest of your PFC.
Oh, wow. Okay, that explains so much. So every time you resist an urge, every time you tell yourself, no, don't check Twitter, you're not getting stronger, you're actually draining that finite energy source.
You are wearing down the brake pads every single time. This is the physiological explanation for why your willpower collapses at the end of the day.
Right. After a long day of making decisions, solving problems, resisting distractions.
Your brake pads are worn down to the metal. You get home, and you physically cannot stop yourself from scrolling TikTok for 2 hours and eating a pint of ice cream. The system designed to say no is exhausted. The battery is at zero.
We're not morally weak. We're just physiologically depleted. That is hugely validating.
It's a resource issue, not a character issue.
So the survival guide for this section about conserving your brake pads is all about designing your environment so you don't have to use the brakes so often.
Exactly. And that starts with a technique called batching. You need to group all those low-value, high-interruption tasks together.
Emails, texts, phone calls.
All of it. Do it in one single high-intensity blitz. Don't let them pepper your day like little interruptions every 11 minutes.
So you create these dedicated time blocks, like from 11.0 to 11.30, I will deal with all communications. And the rest of the time, they're off limits.
You're creating a sanctuary for deep work, a time when your brake system can just relax because the temptations aren't even an option. You're replacing 40 little no's with one big no, not right now.
And what about that internal noise? There's another trick for that, right? The labeling trick.
Yes. This is a fantastic little mental move. When that impulsive urge hits to check your phone or a distracting anxiety pops into your head, don't just fight it with brute force.
What do you do instead?
You engage your rational PFC by using language.
You actually describe the feeling to yourself.
Precisely. You say either out loud or in your head, I am feeling a strong urge to check my phone right now. Or, I am noticing a feeling of anxiety about that upcoming meeting.
And why does that work?
Because language and definition are high PFC functions. By forcing your brain to label the impulse, you are forcing the rational, logical part of your brain to wake up and take the wheel.
It's like you're throwing a bucket of cold water on the emotional, impulsive part of your brain.
It shifts the activity. It's a seesaw. PFC activity goes up, the impulsive system goes down, and you conserve those precious brake pads because you're using analysis, not just willpower.
This is so practical. Okay, so we know the limits, we know how to block distractions, but what if the problem itself is just so hard that you're completely stuck? How do you force a breakthrough?
This takes us to the incredible story of Andrew Wiles, who basically figured all of this out through sheer intuition decades ago.
Right. Section 3, outsourcing cognition and the power of insight. This starts with what you call the 300-year-old prank.
We're talking about Fermat's last theorem, scribbled in the margins of a book back in 1637.
Where Fermat famously wrote that he had a truly marvelous proof, but the margin was too small to contain it.
The ultimate mathematical tease. It tortured the greatest minds on the planet for 357 years, until Andrew Wiles.
And his strategy was radical. He didn't just work on it at the university. He basically became a hermit. He locked himself in his attic for 7 years.
He ghosted his colleagues, he stopped going to conferences, he was a mathematical monk, and he did it because he intuitively understood the fragility of his PFC stage.
He knew that to solve a problem that immense, he needed 100% of his cognitive resources. His tiny 4-slot stage couldn't afford a single distraction.
Not one heckler from the audience. He treated his focus like the most precious, endangered resource in the world.
But even in the attic, he still had to live. He had to eat, sleep, go for walks. If the PFC is so expensive, how did he reserve all of its energy just for the theorem?
This is where we bring in the unsung hero of the brain, the basal ganglia, the brain's autopilot.
Okay, so this is the part that handles all the routine stuff.
It's the underpaid intern on the factory floor. If your PFC had to consciously manage things like tying your shoes or chewing your food, it would be bankrupt before you left the house.
He would be exhausted by breakfast.
The basal ganglia takes over all those routine, repetitive tasks. It runs on far, far less energy than the PFC.
The classic example of this is learning to drive, right?
It's the perfect illustration. When you were first learning, especially a manual car, your PFC was fully engaged. You were sweating, you couldn't listen to the radio or talk.
Every single action was conscious and draining.
But now, you get in the car and you just drive. You can have a full conversation, listen to a deep dive like this one.
And sometimes you arrive at your destination and you don't even remember the trip.
That's the signature of the basal ganglia. The autopilot was flying the plane.
So Wiles' genius wasn't just the math, it was his life strategy.
He was a master of cognitive efficiency. He routinized his entire life. He took the same walk every day, ate the same kinds of meals, had the same daily schedule.
He was offloading his entire life to his basal ganglia.
So that he could reserve that tiny high-energy PFC stage 100% for the theorem. It was a brilliant strategy.
But even after all that, after he emerges from the attic and presents the proof, he hits a wall, the impasse. A flaw is found.
A devastating flaw. He thinks he can fix it in a weekend, but the hole just gets bigger. He starts to panic. He starts grinding, thinking furiously, trying to force a solution.
Which, as the sources explain, is the absolute worst thing you can do when you're looking for a creative breakthrough.
Exactly. When you're stuck on a really hard problem, your PFC just starts frantically throwing out old logical answers. Solutions that have worked in the past. It's like a room full of panicked consultants yelling advice.
And all that internal noise just drowns out the quiet, subtle, creative signals that might actually hold the answer.
It's the same reason that the harder you try to remember someone's name, the further away it gets. The brute force of the PFC is just too loud.
So what did Wiles do? He couldn't force it.
He finally gave up trying to force it. He decided to just let his mind drift. He'd go for his walks, think about the problem loosely, without pressure. And that is when the lightning bolt hit. The insight moment.
September 1994. The solution, which was a mathematical tool he had actually abandoned years earlier, suddenly appeared in his mind in a flash of clarity.
And neuroscience completely backs this up. Insights almost never happen when you're staring at the screen, actively trying to solve the problem.
They happen in the shower, on a walk, right as you're falling asleep.
When the loud CEO, the PFC, finally shuts up, the noise level in your brain drops, and it allows these faint, creative connections, often from the right hemisphere, to finally be heard. Wiles won because he knew when to turn his brain off.
And we can all steal his tricks. This is the survival guide for generating insight.
First, you have to respect the 4-slot limit by chunking. You have to learn how to eat an elephant.
So if your task is write 50-page report that's too big, that will crash the stage.
It's too big, it's too abstract. You have to break it down brutally. Draft outline. Find 3 key statistics for section 1. Write the first paragraph of the introduction.
You only allow one small, manageable chunk on the stage at a time?
Your brain loves small, achievable wins. It builds momentum.
Second, and this goes against every high achiever's instinct, schedule space out time.
When you hit a wall, stop banging your head against it. Get up, walk away, go outside if you can, and you have to tell yourself, I'm putting this on the back burner now.
You're not slacking. You're creating the optimal neural conditions for insight.
You're consciously silencing the PFC noise, trusting that the subconscious will keep working on it.
And finally, a word on mindfulness. And this isn't just about relaxation.
Not at all. It's a tech tool for the brain. By just observing your breath or the feeling of your feet on the floor, you are training your brain's director to notice the quiet signals before the stress and noise grounds them out. It's about learning to hear the whispers.
Okay, so we've covered our own internal efficiency. But what about the biggest derailer of all? Raw, overwhelming emotion.
Yes. Section 4, Taming the Caveman Within. This is all about emotional hijacking.
And the scenario is instantly recognizable. You're trying to have a nice evening, your phone buzzes, it's your boss, a single character.
Or that email subject line that just ruins your whole day. We need to talk.
Instantly, your heart is pounding, your palms get sweaty, and your brain starts screening this epic disaster movie where you're fired and your life is over.
That is a textbook emotional hijacking. And the culprit is the limbic system. If the PSC is the logical CEO in a suit, the limbic system is the caveman in a loincloth.
And the caveman is not very sophisticated.
He has a very simple binary operating system. Toward reward. Or away threat. Does it look safe and good? Run toward it. Does it look dangerous or unknown? Sound the alarm and run away.
And the sources are really clear. The caveman is a pessimist. He defaults to threat.
It's a survival feature, right. Better to mistake a stick for a snake than the other way around. But in the office, mistaking your boss's typo for a threat just gives you indigestion. But the alarm bell, the amygdala, it sounds like the fire alarm anyway.
And here's the crucial link to efficiency. The limbic system and the PFC are rivals. They are fighting for the same limited fuel tank.
That's right. When the caveman gets triggered, he's a bully. He hogs all the oxygen and glucose, pulling blood flow away from the logical PFC. And the result is measurable and immediate. When you get emotional, your IQ literally drops.
You physically become less intelligent.
The rational part of your brain is being starved of resources. You cannot think clearly when you're in a panic. The caveman is running the show.
And so what do most of us do when that happens? We try to suppress it. We just stuff it down.
The pressure cooker method. You clench your jaw. You tell yourself, don't get mad. Don't show you're upset.
But the neuroscience shows this is the most self-destructive thing you can do.
It's like trying to plug an exploding pressure cooker with your thumb. It takes a massive amount of energy. Your amygdala is still ringing, your blood pressure is still soaring, and the act of suppression itself burns huge amounts of PFC energy.
So you just end up exhausted, and then you explode later over something totally unrelated.
Because your emotional brake pads are completely shot.
So we can't suppress it. We need to manage it. And the sources give us two incredibly simple, science-backed silver bullets for this.
The first is Silver Bullet #1, labeling Name the Beast. It sounds almost too simple to work, but it's like magic.
So when you feel that emotional storm starting to brew, you just describe it.
You force your brain to find a specific word. Instead of just feeling this big amorphous cloud of bad, you say to yourself, I am feeling anxious right now, or I feel disrespected.
And we already talked about why this works. Language is a PFC function.
Exactly. By forcing your brain to label the emotion, you are pulling the logical CEO back into the driver's seat. It's the seesaw again. PFC activity goes up, limbic activity goes down. It's an instant chill pill powered by your own analysis.
It shifts you from being the emotion to observing the emotion. Okay, what's the second silver bullet?
This one's a little more proactive. Silver Bullet #2. Reappraisal, rewrite the script.
The core idea here is that it's not the event that causes the emotion. It's our story about the event.
Our interpretation is everything. The sources use that classic example of seeing someone crying outside a church.
If you assume it's a funeral, you feel sadness, you feel sympathy.
But if someone tells you, no, it's a joyful wedding, those are tears of happiness, your entire emotional state flips in an instant. The fact the crying person didn't change.
The script changed. The story changed.
And you can use this as a superpower at work. Let's go back to that text from the boss. The caveman script is, he hates me, I'm fired, this is a disaster. Threat.
The reappraisal is actively searching for a different story.
A non-threatening story. Wait a minute, maybe he's just really busy and hit send by accident. Or maybe he just needs a quick update on that project because it's super important to him.
You're shifting the narrative from a personal attack to a logistical issue, from away to toward.
You are actively rewiring your brain away from that default pessimism.
So the survival guide here is all about being the director of the trauma, not the star.
First, you acknowledge you don't fight. Oh, there's the caveman screaming again. How interesting.
Second, you practice labeling. I'm feeling nervous. Let the floodwaters recede.
And third, you become your own screenwriter. You pause and ask, what's another possible explanation for this? Find just one positive angle to trick the amygdala into turning off that siren.
Okay, that's our internal drama. But what about the exhausting external drama? The social minefields of the office?
Yes, Section 5, the SCARF model. And this starts with the piece of science that should just change how you interact with people forever, which is that social pain is physical pain.
It's mind-blowing. The study where they had people in an MRI scanner and they were ignored in a virtual ball-tossing game.
A seemingly minor social rejection. But the part of their brain that lit up in response
Was the anterior cingulate cortex, the exact same part that lights up when you feel physical pain, like stubbing your toe.
to your ancient brain, being embarrassed or ignored is the same as a physical injury. It's a level 10 survival threat.
Because getting kicked out of the tribe meant getting eaten by a lion.
Exactly. So your amygdala pulls the fire alarm, even if the threat is just being left off an email chain.
So to navigate this, we need the SCARF model, the 5 social buttons that trigger either a massive threat response or a positive reward response in people.
Let's break them down. SCARF. First, S is for status.
Yeah.
This is our relative sense of importance, our place in the pecking order.
And the number one way we accidentally trigger a status threat in the office.
Unsolicited advice. We think we're being helpful when we say, you should really use a pivot table for that.
But what the other person's caveman hears is, I'm smarter than you. I am higher status than you.
You've aggressively attacked their competence. Their brain's shields go up instantly, and they will reject your advice, even if it's good advice.
So the fix is to stop telling and start asking.
Ask, hey, you're really good with this stuff. How would you approach this? You raise their status, and they become open to collaboration.
Next, C is for certainty. The brain is a prediction machine, and it hates ambiguity.
It burns massive amounts of energy trying to guess what's going to happen next. Uncertainty is torture for the PFC.
Like that Friday afternoon text from the boss, see me on Monday, and then they go offline.
Your whole weekend is ruined. You spend 48 hours imagining every worst-case scenario. The uncertainty is often worse than the actual bad news.
So the fix is just to provide clarity.
Ruthless clarity, even if the news is bad. We need to talk Monday because the client rejected the proposal. The problem is still there, but the threat of the unknown is gone. You've saved them 2 days of cognitive burnout.
Okay, on to A, autonomy. The feeling of being in control.
The need to feel like you're the driver, not the luggage. Micromanagement is the absolute killer of autonomy.
When a boss is correcting your font size or rewriting your emails.
They are stripping away your sense of control. It leads to disengagement, what psychologists call learned helplessness. The brain just stops trying.
So how do we give control back?
Give choices, not orders. Instead of do it this way, say, we have 2 options here. Option A is safe, option B is risky. Which one do you think we should pursue? The moment they choose, it's their project. Their autonomy is intact.
Next up, our relatedness. Friend or foe?
Our brains default to foe with strangers. It's a safety mechanism. The goal is to flip that switch to friend as quickly as possible.
And the fix is, counterintuitively, small talk.
Don't dive right into business. Talk about the weather, the commute, sports. These little rituals send a powerful safety signal. We're in the same tribe. Even better, find a shared goal or a common enemy. We have to team up to deal with this difficult client. Instant bonding.
And finally, F is for fairness. This one is visceral.
When we feel something is unfair, someone else gets credit for our work, for example, it lights up a part of the brain called the insula.
Which is the same part that lights up when you smell rotting meat. It triggers disgust.
Unfairness literally feels like poison to your brain. It's a physiological revulsion. People will quit high-paying jobs over a bonus structure they feel is rigged.
So the fix has to be transparency.
Transparency in the process. The anecdote about the billionaire CEO who always flies economy with his staff,
Yeah.
it's a masterstroke of fairness signaling. It says, we all play by the same rules.
So the survival guide is to use SCARF as a personal radar.
Exactly. When you're feeling angry or defensive, ask yourself, which of my buttons just got pushed? Was it status? Certainty.
And before any important conversation, especially giving feedback, do a quick SCARF check on what you're about to say.
Am I about to sound condescending? Did I leave them any room for choice? Should I start with a friendly opening? You're proactively managing the social environment.
Which is the perfect lead-in to our final section, a masterclass in influence, how to actually change someone's mind.
And we start with the painful truth, why criticism fails.
We've covered this. Giving advice is an aggression. It attacks status.
The amygdala takes over. Their brain goes into threat mode. They literally cannot hear what you're saying because their caveman is preparing for a fight.
And that praise sandwich thing is useless.
The sugar-coated arsenic, the brain isn't fooled. It smells the threat coming and just tunes out the fake praise entirely.
So if telling people what to do doesn't work, what's the real physics of change?
It's all about guiding attention. Remember, the brain is a forest. Wherever you shine the spotlight of attention, those neural pathways grow thicker and stronger.
So you can't force change. You can only guide their spotlight. You have to be a midwife of ideas.
You're helping them give birth to the solution that's already in their subconscious. You're not feeding them the answer.
And there's a clear 3-step strategy to do this.
Step 1. Establish safety. This is non-negotiable. If they're in threat mode, their IQ is 8. You have to do a scarf massage first.
Lower your own status. I could use your help with this. Increase their certainty. Let's just talk about the next step. Boost relatedness. We're in this together.
Only when that threat level drops can you move on.
Step 2. Stop digging. Start building. Our instinct is to ask, why did this go wrong? What's the problem?
But that just reinforces the failure pathways in their brain.
Yeah.
It keeps the spotlight on the problem. You have to pivot hard to the solution future.
Don't ask why it's broken. Ask, what would this look like if it were working perfectly? Or what's the ideal outcome we're aiming for?
That forces their brain into discovery mode, not defense mode. You're shining the light on the path forward.
And the final, hardest part. Step 3. Ask and zip your lip.
Oh, this is so hard. Because you know the answer. You want to just give it to them.
And get that little dopamine hit of being right.
But if you give them the answer, they have zero ownership. For them to truly commit, they have to have their own aha moment, their own insight.
That's where the real motivation comes from.
So you ask those gentle flashlight questions. What's the one thing that needs to happen first? What's the biggest obstacle you see? And then you maintain silence. You wait.
You wait for their brain to make the connection on its own.
You wait until their pupils dilate and they say, oh, wait a minute, I know what I need to do. That is how you upgrade a brain.
Okay, let's bring the curtain down. A quick recap of the director's notes for everyone listening.
First, know your hardware. Respect that tiny 4-item stage. Protect your morning energy like it's gold.
Second, fix the brakes. Stop multitasking. It makes you dumber. Use batching to create focus sanctuaries, and use labeling to conserve your willpower.
Third, embrace the zombie. When you're stuck, get up and walk away. Schedule space-out time. Your best ideas will come when you're not trying.
Fourth, tame the caveman. Your emotions are physiological. Use labeling and reappraisal to put your rational brain back in charge.
Fifth, wear your scarf. Social pain is real. Proactively manage status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness in all your interactions.
And finally, be an influencer. Stop giving advice. Start guiding attention with questions. Help others find their own aha moments.
The big takeaway here is that you don't have to be a slave to your own biology. You have the instruction manual now. You can be the director.
So here's our final thought for you to take away. Think about one specific stressor in your life right now. That project that feels impossible, that difficult conversation you've been avoiding.
And ask yourself, which of these cognitive flaws is running the show? Is it the tiny stage, the weak battery, the worn-out brakes? Is the caveman screaming?
And this week, challenge yourself to consciously step in as the director. Say, cut, let's do another take. Apply one of these strategies to that specific situation. Take control of the script.
Because your brain is capable of a standing ovation performance every single day. As long as you learn to respect its tragic but predictable hardware specs,